YouTube, what's the deal? It's your boy King Kendrick here. Hitting y'all with a video. Today is actually going to be story time. So I'm going to get into the prime of kicking my content off. And I want to talk today about TKK versus DSP. All right. YouTube acknowledges that series, that set, that fight to be 10 years old because it happened around September, August, somewhere around that time frame. And so as of now to YouTube, it's 10 years old, even though it happened 11 years ago. But I wanted to talk about that. I've seen there's been several people, various different YouTube accounts that I've seen that have kind of like did recaps and just covered the fight and whatnot, just from a perspective of people giving their opinions. Some people just re-uploading the content from his channel. Nobody captured it from my side, which makes it extremely unique. Obviously, I'm one half of that series that took place 10 years ago, and so I felt like, hey man, it only makes sense if I go ahead and just speak about it a little bit. So this is gonna be story time. This is going to be a series. This is not going to be one 50-minute video with me just talking about TKK versus DSP. So I'm just letting y'all know it's going to be broken up in different parts. I have not scripted this. So, today I'm in my man cave, and I just decided I was cleaning shit up, and I'm like, man, you know what? Let me go ahead and rap about this. My kids are texting me. That they're getting on their buses and things like that. And I was like, man, this would be a great time for me to do this. So, again, TKK versus DSP was a big part of YouTube for the piece of YouTube that was covering Street Fighter and fighting game content at that time. It was an era where the YouTube personalities for the gamers started to come about and whatnot. And so, I feel like in order for you to really understand like why I went after DSP and why I felt like that fight was important, I need to give you a little bit of a backlog or backstory as to who I am, where I come from, and how I perceive things. And so, for those that don't know me, and I don't know if this video and if this series will get any traction or not, this is definitely not clickbait or anything like that. But I'm from Detroit, Michigan. For my people who watch me from time to time in the D, I'm from equally the East Side and the West Side. I grew up on 6 Mile and Davison. I grew up on Joy Road and Dexter simultaneously. You know what I'm saying? So I don't claim the East Side or the West Side, but I'm Detroit to the fullest till I die. Everything that Detroit stands for, the whole swagger, the slang, everything is definitely me. It's here. I'm here in Florida now. Been here for 10 years. Shit, I've been in Florida for 10, 11 years. 9 or 10 years. I've been down here, and Detroit, I still hold it near and dear. And so, being from Detroit, I came up in the arcade scene, right? And when I say the arcade scene, we're not talking about just like, the prime time Friday night, which was the biggest night that you could play fighting games in Detroit for a long time, and then transition to Saturday. But I come from an era where in Detroit, on every corner, you got either a gas station, you got a church, you got a liquor store, or you got a Coney Island restaurant. You know what I'm saying? Coney Island is the spot to sell chili cheese dogs, Coney dogs, they're hot dogs, they call them Coney dogs, and just various different type of foods. And so in either in your liquor stores or your beer and wine stores or your Coneys, you're gonna find an arcade. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna find a couple of spots where you can pop some quarters in and play some games. And so I come from that era. I'm talking about from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And then my granddaddy, he used to own a beer and wine store on the east side of Detroit. We taking it way back. And so I came up accustomed to I came up with the privilege of being able to play games. Not saying he had a Street Fighter machine, but you know, a bit of an origins, if you will. And so I come from a time where you know there's a lot of dudes that would be around at these little local spots playing these games and things like that. And so I learned early on the aggression of what it was like playing someone in the arcade. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, and even for a long time, you know what I'm saying, even dating back 10 years, 11 years from the TKK versus DSP set, online was a thing kicking for years, online has been a big thing, where you could play in the comfort of your home and you can recklessly talk shit, and you know what I'm saying, you can hone your skills and be comfortable playing in your draws and, etc. I come from a time where, you had to man up and you had to watch how you beat the dude that was next to you, because you beat dog the wrong way, motherfucker might steal on you. You know what I'm saying? And it was really like that in the D. Just to keep it real, ain't nobody never stole on me, but I've seen some shit go down over some Street Fighter matches and Primal Rage matches and some Mortal Kombat 2 matches and things like that. You know what I mean? But I come from that time, man. So coming from that. When it got to a point where I decided that I wanted to be more competitive in games, I could not find the outlet to really exercise what I felt like my natural abilities were. You know what I'm saying? I came up I don't have no big homies and nothing. Let me just make that clear. But I came up under my cousin, whose name is Chardon. And, we talking back from, there used to be this place called Blockbuster Video, and they would have like the Clay Fighter tournaments and shit like that on Super Nintendo. But I come up under my cousin Chardon, and him and his crew, they always played Street Fighter. So I always had dudes that was like a year or two older than me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm an older cat, but I always had somebody that was a little bit older than me that could help me understand what Street Fighter was and things like that. And so even when I was playing them, I can remember clearly him and his friends being upset when they would play me, because I would do shit like I would tick throw. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know it was called tick throw, but I would cross over with a forward kick, jab, do a quick shimmy where I walk back, walk forward, and throw them. And they be mind fucked by that shit. Like, what the fuck? Like what? Like they legitimately thought I was cheating. You know what I'm saying? Or doing something equivalent, because I would force them into a block, right, and then somehow I would magically be able to throw them before they could react from the block, because they couldn't process that, and neither could I didn't understand to the fullest effect what I was doing, but I knew that shit worked. You understand what I'm saying? And so I come from that, man. So I come from a time where I was really an early bloomer with it. Like I understood a lot of the philosophies behind playing fighting games. It's really a chess to checkers, type of thing. Playing that versus playing some of the sports games back in the day. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about like NBA Live '94 and shit like that. Like I never really got into those games because I played those games with my other family, and those games were fun. But playing a Street Fighter game really made me feel like I was exercising my mental capacity. You understand what I'm saying? So again, just giving y'all a backlog on who I am and where I come from. And so just to take the story a little further, playing in Detroit, it was a lot like I imagine, probably like it was playing in all over the country, right? We had different arcades all throughout the city, or different little spots that had kind of like kiosks where, you could go into these little locations and play some games. You understand what I'm saying? So when we speed up and we go to a time where I'm actually competing in the state of Michigan, there's one name that stands out, and I'm not going to do a lot of name dropping on this, but there's this cat named Video, Juan Tober. The only person, and this is no disrespect to any of my brethren in Michigan or anything, but the only dude that could ever really, I could see eye to eye, you know what I'm saying, as if like an equal to an effect, you know what I mean? Because you know, if you have, I feel like what he possessed in terms of his abilities, in terms of how crafty he was mentally, and again physically able to produce what his mind could perceive. I feel like he was the only person from the Street Fighter perspective of gameplay in Michigan, not just Detroit, but Michigan. From that time of probably, I'd imagine, you know, from the beginning of like 92, 93 up until when, you know, the tournament scene or the arcade scene just kind of wilted away, which was like in 2001, 2002-ish, 2003, you know what I'm saying? Maybe '04. You know, he was the only cat that I really, really admired and didn't look up to, but I looked at him as an equal. I looked at him as a person where it was like, okay, now I have someone that all these years of me training and playing, you know, I can play. So TKK stands for the King Kendrick. This shit is tattooed on my neck. That's some shit that runs deeper than most people understand. But TKK also originally was crafted as Tournament Known Killer. Tournament Known Killer, right? And so in order to be TKK, for me, I had to beat Video, which is the dude I was just talking about, right? And I went through this years ago on my old channel, King Kendrick, that does not exist anymore. But, you know, so a couple of things about me. I'm an antisocial guy to a big degree. You know, I never really got into the whole traveling thing because I always just felt like the dudes always was weird as fuck, man. Like I honestly, I just really always felt like the dudes that you meet at a lot of those functions are just weirdos, man. And so again, you know, I'm not saying that with the intent to offend anyone, because you could very well look at me and say this dude is a dweeb. But the reality is, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much shit that be going on with them conventions and them tournaments and things like that. And we see that like today, but you know, I always looked at that back in the day. Like even when we'd go to like Chicago to like the Midwest Nationals or the Midwest Championships and shit like that in Illinois. I mean, it was just weird, man. It's like funky as hell, and the niggas just dressed weird, and they was just really weird, man. You know what I'm saying? So me, you know, I was really just a local homebody. You know, that's who I've always been. You know what I'm saying? You know, but you know, during the time I was kicking it, like I was kicking the shit in my state and in my city, holding it down. And so yeah, man, I had a really good time doing that. So so let me push this story forward, right? Let's go to 2008, 2009, or even 2007, right? So in '07, I'm retired. I'm done gaming. I think my last tournament was in 2007. I actually think we and when I say we, I'm talking about the Michigan crew. I believe we went to Midwest Nationals. We went to Northbrook, Illinois. There was a tournament in Nickel City. I competed in Capcom versus SNK 2. I can't remember. I think it was either 5th or 6th. And I competed in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. And I think I tied 5th or 7th. I cannot remember how they did the placements at that time, right? And I had a good time at both of those events. That was the last time that I made the attempt to travel and compete. At this time, Antoine Ortiz is a part of the Michigan community because he's a player that came about later. You know what I'm saying? That essentially came up under Brian James and myself. So we had Antoine Ortiz, we had myself, we had Video, we had, man, we might have went there like, I ain't even gonna hold you up. Detroit might have went there 25 deep. You know what I'm saying? And you had a lot of the homies that was playing like Street Fighter Alpha 2 on arcades. That was a good ass time. But that was the last time that I had personally made any real interest in going into competitive play. You know what I'm saying? Right? So when we had that in mind, after that, you know, in my city, I own a house on the west side, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing local functions, things like that, you know, just having the dudes come over Friday. Saturdays sometimes because there's no arcade. The arcade is at my spot, right? And so it's strictly a casual thing for me. So in that, I have a wife, we have a couple of kids, and we decide, hey, we have some rough and rocky times. Let's go ahead and get shit together. So we do that. We make the effort to. I still got my house in the city. We move out to the burbs, or not to the burbs, but we move out to the outskirts of the D. And so, this is around 2009. I got a daughter that's born. Her name's Lyric. She's born March 2009. This whole union, right, comes about June, July-ish. I'm born in July, so it's around that time. Summertime, you feel me? Kids aren't in school. So, I'm completely out the game. There's no casual play going on. I'm not going to any of the homies' spots or none of that shit. I'm done with playing. Like, all my sticks are retired. You feel me? They are all retired. I'm not using them bitches or nothing. So I'm sitting and I am looking at life. You know what I'm saying? I get a legit job. I've been hustling all this time before. I got a decent little job at the hospital. And my baby mama, you know what I'm saying? She making hella cake. She always been paid. And shit, we got a nice little spot. I got a little spot in the city, you know what I'm saying, I could dip off to from time to time. I got a couple cars, the caddy on spinners, and I got the 93 Grand Marquis, and I had another old school, you know what I'm saying? So, life is good. But I'm sitting and I'm bored as a motherfucker at the crib, you know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at YouTube one day. I remember it clearly because I had a YouTube channel. I made my YouTube channel in 2007, 2008. My original channel, I used to post like the interviews for like the Michigan players. But I'm looking at YouTube one day because I get the basement of this townhouse that we have set up. And for those of you that remember, this was the dojo of TKK. I've got literally four different setups: Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. I got a PlayStation 2 setup just for like the old school fighting games and shit like that. A Dreamcast setup, because these are the consoles we were using to play Third Strike and CVS 2 and Marvel 2 and shit, right? So I got all that set up. So I'm just sitting at the computer one day and I'm looking on YouTube and I'm like, man, these dudes is getting busy on here. Street Fighter 4 is out. It's out. It's a game that exists. I have no interest in it. And my lack of interest in Street Fighter 4 is because I feel it's too easy. I feel the game is too easy. I'm feeling as if, and mind you, it's been 2 years since I've been a competitive player, like from a tournament perspective, even with the intent of trying to place top 5 or anything. But I just feel that this game has been dumbed down and it's slow and it's not very analytical. And these are the thoughts of a person that is stubborn and stuck in his ways and who's just like, man, I don't want to learn how to play this because I'm already not interested. I got a wife again, you know what I'm saying? I got a new baby and, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just got other things going on. So this game just is not finna get my attention, right? All right, so I'm gonna tell you what fucked me up about Street Fighter 4, what I didn't like about it. And I got my arcade stick, and I just want you to listen to this if you can. And I got the video on freeze right now. So when I am playing Street Fighter 3 to execute a bread and butter combo with Ken to a super, it sounds like this. Just like that. When I am executing a bread and butter combo with Ryu on Street Fighter 4, it sounds like this. It sounds just like that. That's crossover forward, down short, down jab, sweep. Here's third strike again. So much smaller execution window, and that shit just pissed me the fuck off with how easy that game was to my series.